Leah, we need to go, now. Alex stood by the door, one shoe on, one shoe off. His phone buzzed on the counter, a jittery reminder of his mother's panicked voice moments earlier. Did she say what happened? I asked, rushing to grab my keys. No, just that everything's out on the lawn and she needs us. Sounded off, Leah. Really off. We sped through the quiet streets, my heart drumming in sync with the pulsing engine. Ruth had always been a strong woman, not the sort to easily panic. My fingers tightened around the wheel, my mind racing. When we pulled up to the house, the scene was jarring. Ruth's belongings were strewn across the yard. Old photo albums lay open, pages fluttering in the breeze. Furniture was haphazardly arranged, and Ruth sat on the porch, a calm smile on her face. It didn't fit. Mom? Alex rushed forward. What happened? Are you okay? Ruth looked up, her eyes twinkling with something I couldn't quite place. They think they've outsmarted me. Little do they know, their game has just begun. Alex and I exchanged a worried glance. What do you mean? Who did this? Ruth patted the space beside her, inviting us to sit. Sebastian and Trina. They want control, but I'm not so easily fooled. The weight of her words hung in the air. We had known Sebastian and Trina were ambitious, but this was beyond anything we imagined. Leah, they left her here, just abandoned her. Alex's voice cracked with frustration. Mom, you need to come with us. It's wrong. We can't just leave you here. Ruth nodded, standing up with a grace that belied her age. Let's gather what we can. The rest can wait. As we packed up Ruth's life, she seemed oddly composed. Alex kept shaking his head, eyes clouded with confusion. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. Ruth's cryptic comment about the game had unsettled me deeply. Back at our place, we settled Ruth into the guest room. Alex and I sat in the kitchen, the silence stretching between us. Finally, he broke it. She said, "Their game has just begun, Leah." What does she mean? I shrugged, feeling the same unease. I don't know, but we need to find out. Ruth's presence changed the dynamic of our home completely. She acted as though nothing unusual had happened, her demeanor eerily serene. Over dinner, she was her usual bright self, discussing mundane things like the weather and neighborhood gossip. It was only later, as I watched her from the doorway of her room, that I caught a fleeting glimpse of something cold and calculating in her eyes. It disappeared almost as soon as it appeared. The next morning, Alex and I sat sipping coffee, our thoughts clearly on the same track. We need to talk to Sebastian and Trina, I suggested. Agreed, but let's do it carefully. They won't confess easily. Leah, I just want a family that's close. I thought moving back here would bring us together. His voice was laced with disappointment. I reached out, giving his hand a reassuring squeeze. We'll figure this out. We will. Days turned into a blur of whispered conversations and silent tensions. Alex set up a meeting with Sebastian. Meanwhile, Ruth continued her cryptic hints, always stopping just short of revealing her full hand. One night, as I walked past Ruth's room, I heard her murmur, "The pawns are in place." Yet my blood ran cold. Something serious was unfolding, and we were right in the middle of it. As we prepared to face Sebastian, a mixture of dread and determination settled in my chest. This wasn't just about Ruth anymore. It was about uncovering the truth, protecting our family, and maybe playing a game we hadn't known we'd entered. And I was ready to win. Sitting across from Sebastian was like confronting a glacier, cold and immovable. His eyes darted between Alex and me, a smirk playing on his lips. Trina sat beside him, flipping through her phone, acting disinterested. "So what's this about, little brother?" Sebastian finally asked, that smug grin not leaving his face. Alex clenched his fists under the table. "Mom's things were thrown out. She was scared and confused. We want to know why." Sebastian raised an eyebrow, leaning back in his chair. "Mom's condition is worsening. It's better for her to be with someone who can provide constant care." "And that someone is you?" Alex's voice dripped with sarcasm. Trina finally looked up, her expression bored. "She needs stability, Alex. Your job keeps you busy. We can provide what she needs." I felt my anger rising. Abandoning her on the porch doesn't sound like providing care. Sebastian shrugged. "She was being difficult. We had to make a point." Alex's face turned red. "A point? She's your mother." Sebastian's smirk faded, replaced by a cold glare. "Don't lecture me, Alex. I'm handling it." The tension in the room was suffocating. I realized we wouldn't get any honest answers here. Alex stood up abruptly, and I followed. "This isn't over, Sebastian," Alex said. Sebastian's eyes narrowed. "Make sure it's not. You wouldn't want to test me." As we left, I couldn't shake the feeling that Sebastian and Trina were hiding something far more sinister. They had no intention of letting Ruth regain control over her life. When we got home, Ruth was knitting in the living room, calm as ever. She glanced up at us. "How did it go?" she asked with a knowing smile. "Not well," Alex replied, dropping onto the couch. "Did you expect anything different?" Ruth's tone was light, but her eyes were sharp. We stayed silent for a moment before Ruth spoke again. "It's time you knew what Sebastian and Trina are really after." She motioned for us to sit. We listened as she began to unravel the tangled web of manipulation. Sebastian and Trina had been planning this for a long time. Ruth's assets, her will, everything was part of their strategy to secure control. "They think I'm losing my mind," Ruth said with a hint of amusement. "But I've been keeping tabs on them." "They've underestimated you," I said, admiration creeping into my voice. Ruth nodded. "Their greed will be their undoing." That night, Alex and I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. "We need a plan," he said quietly. I turned to him. "We need to protect her and expose them." In the following days, we set our plan into motion. Ruth handed over documents, receipts, anything that tracked Sebastian and Trina's moves. Every revelation fueled our resolve. One evening, our doorbell rang. It was Trina, holding a box of Ruth's things. "Mom left these at the house," she said sweetly. "She's not your responsibility anymore," Alex snapped. Trina's eyes glinted. "We'll see about that." As she left, I exchanged a look with Alex. The battle lines were drawn. Their game was cruel, but we were ready to fight back. Ruth's quiet strength bolstered our determination. We'd protect her from this twisted game and bring Sebastian and Trina's plans crashing down. The stakes were high, but like Ruth said, it was they who had miscalculated. Every weekend, Alex and I visited Ruth at Sebastian's house. Each time, the hostility from Sebastian and Trina was palpable. One Saturday, we found Ruth alone in the living room, gazing absently out the window. "Hi, Mom," Alex said gently. She turned, smiling. "Hello, dear. Leah." Sebastian entered, his face darkening at our presence. "You're early. We wanted to spend some time with Mom," I said, matching his cold stare. "Don't mind us," Alex added. "We'll just be a while." Sebastian scoffed. "Make it quick. Trina and I have plans." We exchanged a look with Ruth, her eyes calm but aware. We sat and chatted, trying to ignore Sebastian's hovering presence. After a while, Ruth's gaze drifted to her eldest son. "Sebastian, why don't you join us?" His sneer was immediate. "I have better things to do than listen to family trivia." "Like plotting against Mom?" Alex shot back. Sebastian's eyes narrowed. "Careful, Alex." Ruth's hand on Alex's arm was the only thing that kept him from saying more. "Let's not quarrel," she said softly. He bit his lip, but stayed silent. Ruth turned to me, her eyes asking 1,000 questions. I forced a smile. "It's just frustrating seeing how you're treated." "Leah," she said, her voice firm, "we'll handle it." Sebastian's phone buzzed, breaking the tension. "Mom, Trina and I are taking over your care. It's obvious you can't live alone anymore." Ruth's composed mask didn't slip. "And what exactly do you mean by that?" Sebastian shrugged. "You'll be moving in with us permanently." My jaw dropped. "Without discussing it?" "She's not in any state to argue," he replied, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Ruth's eyes locked on mine. "We'll see." The atmosphere was heavy as we left. Back home, Alex punched a wall in frustration. "He's manipulating everything. We can't let him do this." "We won't," I promised, "but we need evidence." The following weeks, we documented every interaction, every comment. Ruth's clarity in those moments was undeniable. She played along, giving just enough to keep Sebastian and Trina at bay. One afternoon, while Ruth and I sat in the garden, she spoke quietly. "They're convinced they've won, but every pawn they move brings them closer to their downfall." Alex joined us, bringing his laptop. "Look at this. Mom, did you sign any documents recently?" Her eyes flickered with a hint of triumph. "Sebastian tried to force my hand. I signed nothing of importance." "That's crucial," Alex said, showing us forged papers. "They're trying to make it look like you did." Ruth's smile was frightfully serene. "They'll regret underestimating me." Days later, I overheard Sebastian and Trina conspiring. "Once she's declared unfit, everything's ours," Trina whispered. Sebastian smirked. "It's only a matter of time." I recorded their conversation, my heart pounding. Our proof was building, and with it, our resolve. The next family dinner, Ruth was the picture of serenity. Mid-conversation, she casually dropped, "I'll be making some changes to my will." Sebastian's fork clattered to his plate. "What changes?" Ruth smiled sweetly. "To protect myself from unforeseen circumstances." "You can't do that," Trina snapped, panic edging her voice. "Oh, but I can," Ruth replied, "and I will." The dinner ended in frosty silence, but we knew we had them on edge now. That night, Alex and I stayed up late, plans unfurling between us. Ruth wasn't alone in her fight. We were a team, and we aimed to expose every deceit, every betrayal. The game was far from over. Ruth's resilience and cunning fortified our resolve. Sebastian and Trina might have started this, but we intended to finish it. Days turned into weeks, and each visit to Sebastian's felt like stepping into enemy territory. Ruth remained a calm force, but the tension was suffocating. Her serene demeanor only seemed to infuriate Sebastian and Trina more. One humid Saturday afternoon, Alex and I were sorting through some of Ruth's papers in the guest room when we heard raised voices downstairs. We hurried to find Ruth and Sebastian in a heated argument. "You can't just take over my life, Sebastian!" Ruth's voice was trembling but firm. "You're not thinking straight, Mom. This is for your own good," Sebastian snarled, his face a mask of frustration. Alex stepped between them. "Stop this, Sebastian. She's not incapable. You have no right." Trina appeared out of nowhere, her face twisted with a mean smile. "You're fighting a losing battle, Alex. Just accept it." "No," Alex shot back. "We're not giving up on Mom." Ruth's eyes met mine with a silent resolve, then turned back to Sebastian. "I may be getting old, but I'm not blind to your intentions." Sebastian's jaw tightened. "You'll regret standing against us." Later that night, as we prepared to leave, Ruth pulled us aside. "I overheard them talking," she whispered, her expression more serious than usual. "What did they say?" I asked, heart pounding. "They plan to get me declared mentally unfit. They need the control." Alex's eyes widened. "How can they do that?" Now Ruth's smile was grim. "They've already got a doctor who'll back their claim." "Then we need to act fast," I said. "We need more evidence." The days that followed were filled with a quiet, simmering tension. Ruth continued to play her role, but I could see the exhaustion in her eyes. Still, she never wavered. One evening, Alex and I decided to pay a surprise visit. We arrived to find Ruth sitting quietly in the living room, her usually neat hair slightly disheveled. She motioned us to sit. "Listen carefully," she said softly. "I've learned they plan to have me moved to a facility." "What?" Alex's voice was loud, his eyes wide with disbelief. "It's happening soon," Ruth continued. "Sebastian wants to make it look like I can't live at home anymore." Trina suddenly appeared, her eyes narrowing as she noticed us. "What are you doing here?" "We needed to talk to Mom," I said calmly. Trina didn't bother to hide her contempt. "You're meddling where you don't belong. It's too late to save her." Ruth stood up slowly, her eyes never leaving Trina's. "This isn't over." Trina smirked. "It will be soon." We left with a fierce determination burning in our chests. At home, we gathered everything we had. The recordings, the forged documents, every piece of the puzzle that showed Sebastian and Trina's plans. The next morning, we confronted Sebastian and Trina in Ruth's living room. Alex held up a stack of papers. "We know what you've been doing, and we have proof." Sebastian's face went white, but he quickly masked it with anger. "Get out. This isn't your business." "It's very much our business," I said, stepping closer. "We won't let you do this." Trina's eyes flared with anger. "You have no idea what you're up against." Ruth's voice cut through the tension. "Neither do you." That's when I noticed the flicker of doubt in their eyes. They sensed the tide turning. We left them in a stunned silence, our mission clear. Protect Ruth at all costs and bring their schemes into the light. As we walked away, the weight of the conflict didn't seem so crushing anymore. For the first time, we felt hope. The battle wasn't over, but we were prepared for whatever came next. Ruth's strength fortified us, and together we would dismantle the sinister game piece by piece. The following week, our tense standoff with Sebastian and Trina escalated rapidly. Secrets and lies clashed with our determination to protect Ruth. One rainy afternoon, I decided to sneak into Sebastian's office while he was out. The room reeked of arrogance, with its dark, imposing furniture and meticulously organized documents. My hands shook slightly as I rifled through drawers. Footsteps in the hallway made my heart race. I ducked behind the heavy curtains just as Trina entered. She was on the phone, her voice sharp and hushed. The doctor will declare her unfit by Friday. Make sure the papers are ready. Once that's secure, we'll transfer everything into our names. Recordings. I fumbled with my phone, pressing record as fast as I could, capturing her malicious plan. Our proof was growing stronger by the minute. After Trina left, I carefully placed everything back in its place and slipped out of the office, heart pounding. As Alex drove us home, we replayed the recording. Each word filled us with a fresh wave of anger. "We've got them now," Alex said, gripping the wheel. "This proves everything." The next day, Ruth asked to be taken to a familiar park. We walked through the quiet paths, the sun casting long, comforting shadows. Her eyes were alert, yet her silence indicated contemplation. "They've put their pieces on the board," she finally said. "It's time for us to make our move." Alex nodded. "We're ready. We have enough to take to the attorney." That evening, we prepared the documents and recordings, carefully organizing them to present a compelling case. Each file was another nail in Sebastian and Trina's coffin. The confrontation came sooner than expected. On Friday morning, we received a call. "Mom's gone." Alex's voice was frantic. "They've taken her." I swallowed a rising panic. "Where?" "I don't know. They're not answering." We drove to Sebastian's house, a firestorm of urgency fueling us. Upon arrival, we found the house empty, echoing with a disturbing silence. Panic turned to grim resolve. "Check the study," Alex urged. "There might be clues." In Sebastian's office, we found an itinerary for a private clinic. I snapped a picture and raced back to Alex. "This must be where they took her." "We're bringing her back," Alex said, his voice steely with determination. We reached the clinic in record time. As we barged in, Sebastian met us at the door, fury blazing in his eyes. "You're not supposed to be here, and you're not supposed to kidnap our mother," Alex shouted. Trina stood beside him, smug and defiant. "We have every right. She's unfit." Ruth's voice broke through the commotion. "Funny, considering you needed to forge documents to prove it." Alex stepped forward. "We have recordings of your plans, your threats. It's over, Sebastian." Sebastian's expression flickered with doubt, but quickly hardened into a sneer. "You have nothing." "We'll see about that," Alex replied, holding up his phone. "We're taking this to the authorities." Trina's confidence crumbled as the reality of their situation hit her. "This isn't over," she screamed, but her voice lacked conviction. We escorted Ruth out, her demeanor calm, but her eyes blazing with triumph. On the drive home, she said, "They underestimated us." "That was their first mistake," I replied, glancing at Alex, who squeezed my hand. At home, we sat around the dining table, a quiet victory settling over us. Ruth's strength had been our guide, her resilience our beacon. Sebastian and Trina's vile nature had been their undoing, and with every piece of evidence, we moved closer to justice. We knew the battle wasn't entirely over, but we stood united, ready for whatever came next. Ruth smiled at us, her eyes full of pride. They thought they outsmarted us, but they were playing my game all along. And in that moment, I felt it in my bones. This family was stronger than their deceit, and together we would ensure that justice was served. The following Monday, we gathered our evidence and headed to our attorney's office. The weight of everything we'd collected bore down on us, but Ruth's presence steeled our resolve. Mr. Harris, our attorney, scanned through the documents and recordings with growing astonishment. "This is damning evidence," he said finally. "It's more than enough to take to the authorities." Ruth nodded firmly. "It's time we put an end to their schemes." We left Mr. Harris's office with a sense of guarded triumph. Now the battle was in the hands of the legal system. Our job wasn't finished, but we had struck a decisive blow. Back at home, Ruth shared a quiet moment with Alex and me. "Thank you for standing by me," she said softly. "This wouldn't have been possible without you." "We're a family," Alex replied. "That's what we do." A week later, the police arrived at Sebastian's house. We watched from a distance as officers escorted him and Trina into custody. The sight was surreal, the culmination of all our efforts, finally taking tangible form. "That's just the beginning," Ruth said, watching them being driven away. "Their reckoning is far from over." Later that evening, Ruth invited us to join her in the living room. "There's something you need to know," she said, motioning us to sit. She began recounting the moments she had overheard Sebastian and Trina's plans. It was clear from the start, they didn't just want control, they wanted everything. As she spoke, a chilling determination underscored her words. I decided to pretend, to play into their perceptions. Being underestimated gave me the upper hand. You were brilliant, Mom, Alex said, admiration evident in his voice. Thank you, she replied. But the fight's not over yet. We have to see this through. The true extent of Ruth's cunning became clear when she revealed her final move. I moved my assets into a trust managed by Leah before their plans could take hold. My breath caught. You trusted me with everything? Ruth's eyes softened. You've always had a good heart, Leah. I knew you would protect my legacy. The next few days were a whirlwind. The scandal of Sebastian and Trina's arrest reverberated through the community, disgracing them publicly. Every news outlet carried the story of their attempt to manipulate and defraud their own mother. One evening, a knock at the door revealed an officer with more news. Sebastian and Trina are being charged with elder abuse and fraud. Their trial is set for next month. Alex and I shared a look of relief. Finally, justice was within reach. Ruth's eyes sparkled with a renewed vigor. We'll be there to see it happen. The weeks leading up to the trial were tense, but Ruth's strength anchored us. She remained steadfast, her resolve unwavering. And when the day of the trial arrived, we walked into the courtroom as a united front. Sebastian and Trina looked defeated, far removed from their former arrogance. The evidence we provided painted a damning picture, and their defense crumbled under the weight of their deceit. Ruth took the stand, her testimony a powerful testament to her resilience. I am not a pawn in their game. I am my own person, and I will not be controlled. The verdict was clear and just, guilty on all counts. Outside the courthouse, the reality of our victory settled in. Ruth turned to us, her eyes filled with gratitude. We did it. No, Mom, Alex corrected gently. You did it. We just followed your lead. Ruth's smile was a beacon of the strength and love that had carried us through. This family is stronger together. They underestimated that, and it was their downfall. As we drove home, a sense of closure enveloped us. Ruth's cleverness and our unity had triumphed over deceit and greed. The battle had been long and arduous, but we emerged stronger, bound by the love and determination that made us a family. After the trial, a tense quiet settled over our lives. But beneath the calm surface, we knew the battle wasn't truly over. Sebastian and Trina might be facing jail time, but there were still loose ends to tie up. One evening, Ruth gathered us in the living room. There's something more you need to know, she said. Her eyes twinkled with a mischievous glint I hadn't seen before. What is it, Mom? Alex asked, curiosity piqued. Ruth looked at us with a sly smile. I've been planning one last move. Sebastian and Trina think they've hit rock bottom, but they haven't seen anything yet. I blinked in surprise. What do you mean? Ruth leaned back in her chair, her demeanor confident. Their house, their cars, everything they've accumulated using my money, I've already started the process to have it all seized. They'll have nothing left, Alex said, understanding dawning on his face. Ruth nodded. Exactly. They need to understand the full consequences of their actions. The next day, we worked with the attorneys to expedite the process. The legal wheels turned swiftly, and soon enough the foreclosure notices were delivered. Facing both incarceration and financial ruin, Sebastian and Trina were left reeling. A week later, we visited the house one last time. The once intimidating mansion now stood eerily quiet, stripped of its former grandeur. Sebastian and Trina were there, gathering their remaining belongings. As we approached, Sebastian's face twisted with anger. You've taken everything from us. No, Ruth corrected calmly. You did that to yourselves. Trina's face was a mask of hatred. You think you've won, don't you? Yes, Ruth said simply. Not because of what I've taken, but because of what I've protected. Sebastian lunged forward, but the presence of our attorney and a couple of officers kept him at bay. This isn't over, he spat. Actually, it is, Alex said, stepping between us and Sebastian. For you, it's all over. We walked away from the scene knowing that Sebastian and Trina's downfall was complete. Ruth's resolve and our unity had ensured they could no longer harm our family. In the days that followed, the mood in our home lifted. Ruth's trust in us had brought a new level of closeness in our family dynamic. We spent more time together, enjoying the simple moments that had once seemed elusive. One sunny afternoon, we decided to have a small celebration in the backyard. As we set up the table, Ruth smiled warmly at us. "This is what family should be," she said contentedly. Alex wrapped his arm around her shoulder. "We owe it all to you, Mom. You taught us what it means to be strong." "And clever?" I added with a grin. "Thank you, both of you," Ruth said, her eyes glistening with tears of joy. "I wouldn't have come this far without you." Under the amber glow of the setting sun, we sat around the table, toasting to our shared victory and newfound peace. It felt like the dawn of a new chapter, one free from the shadows of betrayal. But as we basked in our moment of happiness, a slight worry tugged at the back of my mind. Would Sebastian and Trina truly give up? Had we really seen the last of their vile nature? Only time would tell. For now, though, we chose to live in the present, cherishing the harmony we had fought so hard to reclaim. Ruth's wisdom and courage had taught us that family wasn't just about blood. It was about standing up for each other, no matter the cost. In the end, Ruth's gambit had outsmarted the most cunning adversaries. It had shown us the true strength of our bonds and the importance of justice. And for that, we were eternally grateful. A month had passed since the trial, and life had settled into a new, comforting rhythm. Ruth now lived with us, her presence a constant source of strength and warmth. We all did our best to put the turbulent past behind us, though at times it cast long shadows over our days. One evening, as we sat around the dinner table, a knock at the door shattered our peace. Alex went to answer it, and moments later he returned with a letter in his hand, his expression unreadable. "What is it?" I asked, my pulse quickening. "It's from Sebastian," he said, handing me the envelope. A chill ran down my spine as I opened it and began to read. "Dear Alex, it seems you and your beloved Leah have won this round. Enjoy your victory while it lasts. Just remember, a cornered animal is the most dangerous. We will be back." I looked at Ruth, who sat calmly awaiting our reaction. "He's threatening us," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Ruth sighed, her eyes reflecting a mix of annoyance and resolve. "Let them try. We're ready for whatever comes next." True to Ruth's spirit, we continued to live our lives, not allowing Sebastian's ominous message to shake us. We fortified our defenses, both legally and emotionally. Our unity was our strength, and we knew he couldn't break that. One afternoon, Alex and I found Ruth in the garden, tending to her beloved roses. "Mom," Alex said gently, "we need to talk about the future." Ruth looked up, her hands still covered in soil. "What's on your mind?" "We want to ensure that you're always protected," I explained. "Maybe we should formalize the trust and secure everything." Ruth wiped her hands on a cloth and stood up, her expression thoughtful. "You're right. It's time to take the final steps." In the days that followed, we worked with Mr. Harris to solidify Ruth's assets into an irrevocable trust. Each signature and sealed document felt like another layer of protection forming around her, around us. One evening, while we were finalizing the papers, Ruth paused, looking over the documents. "This isn't just about protecting me, you know," she said, her eyes meeting mine. "It's about protecting what's right, ensuring that deceit never wins." We nodded, understanding and appreciating the gravity of her words. Weeks passed, and the threat from Sebastian faded into a distant memory, though we remained vigilant. As summer gave way to autumn, our new life with Ruth felt more natural, a testament to the resilience we all shared. One crisp autumn morning, Ruth called us into the living room. There, she sat with an old, weathered book on her lap. "I want to read you something," she said, opening the book. Her voice filled the room as she recited a passage about justice, love, and the unbreakable bonds of family. "This is what you've given me," she said, closing the book and looking at us with glistening eyes. "A family that stands together, even in the face of adversity." Alex hugged her tight, his voice thick with emotion. "We wouldn't be here without you, Mom. You showed us what it means to truly fight for each other." Ruth smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek. "And you showed me what it means to be truly loved and protected." As we sat there, wrapped in the warmth of each other's presence, I realized that this was the true victory. Not just outsmarting Sebastian and Trina, but becoming a family in the fullest sense. We were stronger, more united, and ready for whatever lay ahead. The echoes of past conflicts faded into the background, and we embraced the harmony we had worked so hard to achieve. Ruth's wisdom and courage had led us through the darkest times, and now in the light, we found peace. and in that peace we carved out a future together, one that Sebastian and Trina could never touch.
I forgot. Here's this month's grocery money. Saying that, my husband Stanley slammed down $100. Groceries for a family of 3 on just $100 a month? That's nowhere near enough. If we are short, you guys should earn more. He was giving me a cold stare as he said that. There was no persuading him further. I'm Janet, 27 years old. I live with my husband Stanley and daughter Anne. I met Stanley during college, and we started dating 6 months later. My mom passed away when I was in elementary school, so I was raised in a single-parent home by my dad. I've always faced some prejudices, and I've never had a fiancé.
People don't want to marry someone from a single-parent home. Can you even properly raise a child?
I've heard such whispers from ex-boyfriends, but Stanley was different.
Your dad must be an incredible man to raise a wonderful woman like you.
His words brought tears to my eyes. I was sure he would always be on my side. After graduation, we both started working at my father's company. 3 years into our careers, we decided to get married. Me, raised by a single dad who was always anxious, and my dad wanted Stanley to take over the family business. And so, our married life began. We had a baby within the first 6 months. Afterwards, I quit my job at my father's company. I want to build a happy family surrounded by children. I was living my dream, never imagining that having a child would start a nightmare. One evening,
Hey, are you messing with me? Serving such awful food. Make it again.
I was shocked and started crying. I tried to calm him down, keeping him from directing his anger at our infant daughter Anne. I'm sorry, but this is takeout, you know? It's good, isn't it?
Don't talk back. And that's just being lazy. Do your household and parenting duties like you're supposed to.
Please, don't take it out on me.
Why are you even my wife? If you can cook a decent meal, you are useless.
He spat out those words and locked himself in his room. Why did things turn out like this? The kind Stanley I knew was nowhere to be found, like a different person. I realized that he had started changing gradually since our daughter was born. He would get irritated about everything.
A useless woman who can't even earn money. Can't you even handle being a stay-at-home mom? That's why single-parent household.
He looked down on me, getting angry and raising his voice over anything he disliked. He would ignore or be absent-minded when I talked about work. He wanted me to be a stay-at-home mom and take care of the house, but he seems to enjoy having control over me. His actions became increasingly tyrannical. Despite my disgust, knowing the struggles of a single parent, I couldn't consider divorce. It was for my daughter's sake also. Stanley seems to be doing well at the company. I occasionally talk to my dad over the phone, getting his advice. But looking at a photo of my mom and me as a child, I often sighed, wishing I could talk to my mom. 3 years later,
I forgot. Here's this month's grocery money.
Saying that, my husband Stanley slammed down $100. Groceries for a family of 3 on just $100 a month? That's nowhere near enough. Where's the rest of the money?
It's your job as a stay-at-home mom to manage and make do with it. You're always home. Use that idle brain to figure something out.
Don't be ridiculous. Let me handle the finances.
I have social obligations, so no way. It's basically just you and the kid. So $100 should be easy, right?
That's just... With that, he left the room.
Your dad must be a really great man to have raised a woman as wonderful as you.
Where did that Stanley go? Or is this a real him? I've often thought about running away, but I couldn't do it, thinking of my daughter. The hardship of raising a child alone. Oh, if only Mom were here. I considered divorce several times, but my desire not to burden my daughter with being from a single-parent home always won. But I wasn't just passively accepting my situation. I repeatedly asked for more grocery money and secretly looked for work-from-home jobs and other employment. But with only $100 a month for groceries, I couldn't provide my daughter with proper meals. I was using my savings to supplement our grocery budget, but those savings were running out. I tried my best to provide nutritious meals for my daughter, but I couldn't keep up the impossible budget, and my health started to fail. Who would take care of my daughter if I collapsed? I thought, maybe I should ask my dad for help. So I decided to call him. After our talk, I felt relieved and fell asleep deeply on the sofa. When I woke up, the first thing I saw was my daughter's sleeping face, tear-streaked. Grandpa, Mom is awake.
Thank goodness. That's a relief.
Next, my tearful dad peered in. Confused, I stared at his face for a while.
Janet, I was so worried.
Dad, where am I?
You're in the hospital. To think, collapsing from malnutrition in this day and age. What happened?
He choked up, holding back tears. He might have been crying the whole time I was asleep. He has always been a bit of a crybaby. I'm sorry for worrying you. But why are you here, Dad? What about work?
Don't you remember? You called me, asking for help. When I called back, Anne answered and told me you had collapsed. So I rushed over and called an ambulance.
With that, my dad gently stroked my daughter's head. Thanks, sweetie. You saved me by telling Grandpa. I'm glad you're okay. She smiled proudly at my dad's praise. I never realized she had grown up to be so responsible. Maybe it's a case of learning from negative examples. While I was lost in thought, my dad asked worriedly,
You have become so thin. What's been happening? Haven't you been eating properly?
I tried to dodge the question, but gave in under this serious gaze. I opened up about everything with Stanley.
So, that's what Stanley has been doing.
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me everything?
I didn't want to upset you, Dad. You were so happy about our marriage, and I just... My voice broke into tears, and my dad, holding my hand, was trembling with emotion as well.
Janet, it hurts me more when you don't tell me these things.
Hearing that, my tears flowed freely. Dad, I'm sorry.
There's nothing to apologize for. I'm always on your side, no matter what. You can tell me anything, okay?
Yeah. I wondered why I had endured so much. If I had consulted my dad sooner, maybe my daughter and I wouldn't have suffered so much. In my desire not to worry her and my dad, I had lost sight of what was important. A daughter growing up in a home without laughter or kind words couldn't be happy. Seeing the change in me, my dad said he would make a phone call and stepped outside the room. After a while, he returned and we talked for about an hour. Then, Stanley arrived at the hospital.
Hey, don't call my workplace with such nonsense.
He entered the room angrily, but changed his demeanor when he saw my dad.
Oh, sir.
On the other hand, my dad remained calm, despite Stanley's typically unseen rough behavior.
This is a hospital. Don't raise your voice. You will disturb others. But the reception at work got a call saying Janet got admitted, and it was just for malnutrition. I was the one who made that call. Is there a problem? You made the call? You embarrassed me in front of my colleagues to get a call for such a trivial thing. It was humiliating. Humiliating, huh? Compared to what you have done to my daughter, isn't that trivial?
Stanley grew more agitated in front of my composed dad.
Janet, what have you been blabbering about? Family matters should stay within the family.
My dad protectively held my startled daughter as to shield her from the outburst, but Stanley was unconcerned. He probably didn't even notice. This time, he approached me aggressively, but I remained calm, perhaps because my dad and daughter were by my side. I confronted him with surprising firmness. What? Going to raise your hand at me?
Whoa, getting bold today, aren't we? That's sassy attitude.
Before I could retort, my dad stepped in, confronting him.
Stanley, before you yell at my daughter, don't you have something to say to me? What do you mean?
He looked puzzled. My dad, visibly angry, but still calm, continued.
I pay you a fair salary, yet you don't feed my daughter. Why is that? Where's the money going?
Stanley fell silent, but then,
what's there to be angry about? This is just discipline. No problem at all. By the way, when will the position of president be available? I'm ready to take over any time. What?
My dad was speechless at his absurd outburst.
Why are you surprised? As the husband of the president's daughter, it's only natural I take over, right? With someone as capable as me, this small company will grow tremendously. I should be handed the presidency right away.
He continued with nonsensical remarks. Seeing my dad at loss for words, I confronted my husband. If someone like you became president, the company would go bankrupt in no time.
What did you say?
Just as he was about to lash out at me, my dad grabbed his arm.
You are fired. Effective immediately. What? Didn't you hear me? You are fired. A person like you will ruin the company. In expecting to be handed the presidency? Stop with your nonsense already.
Stanley, who was scolded fiercely by my dad for the first time, stood there with his mouth agape. I seized the moment to deliver the final blow. Let's get a divorce. I can't stand being with you anymore. It's bad for our daughter, and I don't want to burden my dad any further. Hearing my declaration of divorce, he retorted.
What? If I can become president, what's the point of being married to someone like you?
Excuse me?
Your only appeal was being the boss's daughter. I married you because I wanted to be the successor.
I was stunned by his unbelievable statement. I had thought he had changed, but perhaps he was always like this. Then, my dad opened the door and said,
"Please come in."
Stanley's parents entered the room.
"Mom, Dad too? Why are you here?"
He became visibly flustered. My in-laws gave me apologetic looks. I assured them, "It's not your fault," and seated them. They began scolding Stanley, who was red-faced.
"We came as soon as we got the call. We have been listening outside. What are you doing to your wife and child? We disown you as our son." "What?"
Then my daughter handed the divorce agreement to my mother-in-law. "Here you go." She knew it was in my bag.
"What?"
"This is perfect." She took the divorce papers and said, "Please divorce him. We'll take care of the alimony and child support. We'll make sure he pays." Stanley was made to sign, and then taken away by his parents. Later, the discussions for alimony and child support were held at the lawyer's office, recommended by my in-laws. Stanley was subdued throughout. We agreed that he would pay a lump sum from his savings for alimony and child support. "Goodbye then. Take care." I said farewell to him and left the lawyer's office. A year later, I started working part-time at my father's company.
"You're more competent than that man. It's a big help having you here."
He suggested I think about the future, so I decided to work only while my daughter was in daycare. I became so efficient with the accounting that people joked, "Janet is the next president."
"That's my daughter. Maybe we should do that."
But I always responded with a smile. Then I'd have less time with my daughter. Later, I had a matchmaking meeting with the son of a client. His father, my dad's close friend, promised to protect me, saying,
"If my son does anything wrong, tell me. I will always defend her."
He was a very nice person, and I'm actually considering marriage. I don't know what happened to Stanley. My daughter is fond of her former grandparents, so we occasionally meet them, but they avoid mentioning Stanley. I'm truly surrounded by wonderful people, a result of my father raising me single-handedly. My mom in the photo in the room seems to have a bigger smile these days. I'm determined to cherish my family and live happily with my daughter. "Mom, seconds please." "Wow." My daughter happily eats her meal. I vow to never let her suffer as I did.
"What are you doing here?" My ex-husband showed up at my door out of the blue. We've been divorced for 5 years now. He straight off demanded outrageous things. "Come to my parents' funeral with me. We are going to rekindle our marriage, and I need you to be there." What the hell? What's he talking about? He keeps repeating the ridiculous statement. I gave him a dirty look and lashed out. "You and I are strangers now. There's no way I'm going to attend the funeral of your parents, who are assholes just like you. My name is Patty, and I am a 28-year-old office worker. After graduating from university, I was working hard at the company where I started my career and climbed up the ladder. My work seemed to suit me very well, and I felt more alive when I was working. But then something happened that changed my life. It was the encounter with Andy, who later became my husband. I met him through work. He worked for a client company and carried a calm and gentle air that enveloped his surroundings. I was the type to work briskly, so it was refreshing to see him work at his own pace without constraint. And yet he was able to get the job done, so I was attracted to him more and more. As we worked together, we grew closer, and he eventually asked me out. He proposed to me after about a year of dating. I was so in love with him that I accepted without hesitation. Our families were elated, and we had a memorable wedding. Then we went on our honeymoon trip and began our life as newlyweds. We were both working, so we helped each other and shared the household chores. Andy had lived on his own since university and was able to manage cooking to some extent. I appreciated that he was capable of sharing the tasks with me. It allowed me to focus on my work, and I was grateful for having a considerate and dependable husband. Then I got pregnant. While I was very happy to have a child, I wanted to work a little longer. I planned to take a year-long leave to focus on my baby and then return to work. Andy agreed with my proposal. Then the baby was born. She was a healthy little girl. We named her Lydia. Andy was overjoyed, and his parents and I were also delighted to welcome her. After the birth, his parents frequently asked Andy and me when we would visit them again. I didn't dislike them or anything, but when they pestered us so often, I started to grow tired of them. In the meantime, Andy suggested something to me. How about we move in with my parents while you're on maternity leave? It's annoying to arrange my schedule every time we go to see them. Besides, you can have their help with housework and babysitting. I see, that's true. We were living in a rented apartment at the time, so moving out was easy. We could live with the in-laws for a year until my leave was up. They could see their grandchild, and Andy also could take care of his parents. I decided to go along with the idea. He immediately asked them, and they enthusiastically agreed. We got ready and moved to their house. Annie, John, thank you for letting us stay with you for a while. When I thanked my in-laws, they welcomed me with a smile, and then immediately took Lydia from my arms and started playing with her. Sweet little bean, you're so adorable. Lydia was chuckling with happiness, and they were so good to her. I thought I was going to spend a peaceful and enjoyable time with them. But it was only for that day. The next day, I was violently awakened by Annie. Betty, how long are you going to stay in bed? I hastily checked the time on my phone and saw that it was only 5:30 in the morning. What's wrong, Annie? What's wrong? You're staying with us for free. I obliged you to make breakfast for the whole family. You have to pack lunch for Andy and John too. I was in shock. I didn't expect to be told such a thing all of a sudden. Andy assured me before we moved in that his parents could help me with housework and childcare. Of course, as a housewife, I was going to do my share of chores properly. I never thought that the burden would be more than when we lived by ourselves. I was half asleep when I went to the kitchen. Lydia still cried badly at night, so it was 2 a.m. when I finally went to sleep. It was really hard for me to be up and running at 5:30 in the morning. I was moving very slowly. Annie wasn't concerned about my state and complained frantically. Why are you so slow? You're taking too long. Move faster. Oh my god, you're clumsy. So annoying. I had never seen such a frightening expression on her face before, and what she was telling me was unreasonable. In fact, it was my first time cooking in her kitchen, and I had no idea where everything was. I didn't understand why I had to be scolded by her. Then, perhaps sensing that I wasn't happy, she yelled at me again. What's that look on your face? You got a problem with me? No, it's not like that. It's just that I'm not familiar with this kitchen yet. Besides, Lydia cried a lot last night, and I had only 3 hours of sleep. I'd like you to consider that a little more. I tried to be as polite and down-to-earth as possible as I argued my case to her. She sneered and replied, I can't imagine what's gonna be like for us from now on if you're like this from day one. You're such a crook, making up excuses like that and trying to slack. I guess a woman with a half-assed career has a half-assed silver tongue, but it doesn't work on me. You're the daughter-in-law of this family. You're going to obey everything we tell you. Keep that in mind. She ordered me to finish making breakfast and lunch boxes, and then she started watching TV as she lounged on the sofa with her coffee. Soon after, Andy and John got up and sat down at the dining table. Annie also joined them, and to my surprise, she started ranting to them about how useless and bad a cook I was in front of me. John commented, That's not good. We have to educate her properly. I was disappointed in him for taking her words and for making such a statement. My in-laws welcomed me and were kind to me at first, which made me hope that he would be on my side. Andy was Annie's only son, so I thought she was jealous of me taking him from her. When John also started acting cold toward me, it became clear that my in-laws considered me an enemy. My daughter was still a newborn, and I was still in love with Andy, so I didn't think about divorcing him. Andy was on my side at that time, telling them Buddy was doing her chores well at home before. I thought if he protected me, I could get by. Besides, we were only living together for a limited time while I was on leave. If I just put up with them for a little while, there would be no problem. It turned out I was naive. Their bullying became even worse. Patty, hurry up and go buy the snack I asked you for. Hey, why haven't you cleaned the garden I asked you to? You're so useless. You're incompetent. They were unreasonable and abusive at the same time. I looked to Andy for help. Guys, don't be too hard on her. That was all he said, and went to lay on the sofa as if he had nothing to do with it anymore. I expected him to be sterner with them, but he avoided making eye contact with me. My in-laws weren't persuaded to change their attitude just because their son gave them a soft warning. They continued to treat me like a slave and insulted me every chance they had. It's a shame to think that Lydia has poor genes from you. I hope Andy's side comes out stronger. I wish you would just leave Lydia with us and move out. I couldn't stand their hostility anymore. What made them think it's okay to deny my personality? They were becoming out of control, so I consulted Andy. Hon, can you do something about your parents? You need to persuade them to stop mistreating me. He frowned at me. I've been doing everything I can, haven't I? You can take care of the rest yourself. I heard you've been skipping chores at home. A neighbor even told me that It must be tough to have a lazy wife. Wait a minute, why would the neighbor say that? I don't know. She's close to my mom, so they must talk a lot. Anyway, don't humiliate me. Are you kidding me? Are you saying that it is all my fault too? No, but if you'd behaved yourself, Mom and Dad wouldn't have complained. I was shocked by his comment. I can't take it anymore. No matter how hard I try, they don't approve of me. Let's just get a place for ourselves again. We've been living here for more than half a year. They must have had enough time with Lydia now. Andy simply refused my suggestion. Why not? I told them we would stay with them for a year. If we leave now, I'm breaking my promise. I don't want to hurt them. Jesus, so will you promise me that we'll move out after a few more months? Sure, I promise. I decided to endure it as best as I could for the remainder of my stay. I managed to get through 5 more months of hell, and the promised 1 year was up. I immediately told Andy we were going to move out. I had even been sneaking out to view many apartments for the day. Since we could move easily, I showed him the information I got from the realtor. He scratched his head and announced something insane. You know, my parents are saying that we should just live here forever. Excuse me? So let's just stay here and not move out. Are you crazy? You promised me, didn't you? We would move out after 1 year. I can't believe you would break your promise. When I accused him, he snapped back. Shut up. I am your husband. You listen to what I tell you. I was stunned to see him suddenly turn red and yell at me. At the same time, my love for him instantly cooled down. Fine, I get it. Then let's get a divorce. What the hell? Divorce? Are you serious? He shouted even louder. My in-laws heard him and rushed into our room. What's going on here? You woke Lydia and she's crying now. I heard you yelling. Don't tell me this thing is giving you trouble. Who was he referring to by this thing? Their behavior seriously pissed me off, and Andy was on their side. Yeah, Dad. This thing wants to get out of here as soon as possible. It's been talking about getting a divorce. When Andy explained, they became furious at me. You're a piece of work. You really are a lousy woman. Get a divorce, Andy. She asked for it, so just get rid of her and let us take custody of Lydia. We'll be a happy family then. Andy seemed to be convinced by her. That makes sense. I haven't done anything wrong. Even if I refuse to divorce her, she's forcing me to leave. That's fine. I'll give it to you. Let's hurry up and file for it. He triumphantly declared. I got ready and went out. Then I brought the divorce papers back home. Oh, you're back. Who's that guy? Andy and his parents were puzzled looking at the man in a suit standing next to me. He's my attorney I've been consulting with for some time. I thought that maybe things would turn bad, so I've been preparing for it. When they heard the word attorney, they flinched. Why do you need him? Did you think I was gonna keep quiet and let you guys get away with it? I recorded all the insults that came from Annie and John with a voice recorder and wrote about them on my blog as evidence. I also kept a record and proof that I consulted you about it. I took all this to my attorney, and he assured me that I had a valid case against you all. So I'm divorcing you and taking Lydia with me. I'm also going to charge you alimony and child support for all the emotional pain and suffering you have caused me. They all turned pale listening to my declaration. They never expected me to be prepared for this. Andy seemed to understand that he was being pushed to the edge of a cliff. Wait, honey. Alright, I'm sorry. Let's leave this house and live happily with only the three of us. I'll do as you say. He abruptly changed his attitude, but it was already too late. You and your parents are the three of you now. You three lousy adults can live happily together. If I keep Lydia here any longer, she will be influenced by you guys. I refuse to be with in-laws who enjoy bullying and a son who encourages it. I want you to sign the divorce papers now. He was agitated by my firm stand, but when my attorney mentioned that it'll go to court if he refused, he reluctantly signed them. I was able to get custody of Lydia and get away from Andy and my in-laws at the same time. Andy was to pay alimony and child support, but my revenge did not end there. The evidence I collected was sent to nosy neighbors and Andy's boss. As a result, the unbelievable behaviors of my ex-in-laws spread throughout the community in no time. They were shunned by the neighbors, and Andy was scorned by his co-workers. He worked hard while feeling ashamed to pay alimony and child support. 5 years had quickly passed since the divorce. One day, an unexpected person showed up at my house. What are you doing here? It was Andy. I hadn't seen him once in 5 years, as he had refused to see his daughter. So why did he suddenly show up? He straight off demanded outrageous things. Come to my parents' funeral with me. We are going to rekindle our marriage, and I need you to be there. What the hell? What in the world was he talking about? Why do I need to do that? If you do, that'll give me a little more grace period. I have no clue what you're talking about. He seemed quite impatient and started revealing what had happened since the divorce. His parents got used to making me do all the housework for a long time, and they became too lazy to do it themselves. They ended up hiring a housekeeper, but they are just an ordinary family. It was too expensive to sustain the lifestyle, and yet they could not give up. So they started borrowing money from a loan shark. Andy was shunned by female co-workers at work and was in agony from being unable to meet women. He tried to make a move on the housekeeper and was reported and arrested. He got fired from his job afterward and had been unemployed for a long time. In the meantime, the debts kept mounting, and the entire family decided to flee in the night. John, who was driving in the middle of the night, accidentally turned the steering wheel on a mountain road, and the car slid and spun around. As a result, his parents died at the scene, and only he survived. He was left with a large amount of debt with additional medical bills. The debt collector found out where he was, and he was in a desperate situation. He told the debt collector that he would get back together with me, who was making good money, and he would make me pay them back at the funeral. Of course, it was none of my business, and I had no obligation to help him. Please help me out. I have nobody but you now. Let's be married again, love each other, and raise Lydia together. He begged me on his knees. I glared at the man who kept talking selfish nonsense. Enough. You and I are strangers now. There's no way I'm going to attend the funeral of your parents, who are assholes just like you. You made a debt on yourself. Now, get out of here before I call the police. At the mention of the word police, he panicked and walked away. I heard from an acquaintance that he disappeared after the funeral. No one knows where he went, but I don't feel sorry for him because he deserved everything he got. I'm raising my beloved daughter, who is growing up to be a sweet little girl, with the best care I can give her. I'm also determined to do my best at my job and make the most of my life.
My husband selfishly decided to have his sister move in with us. When I spoke to her, the truth came out.
Hey, where's my stuff? My husband looked pale, thinking this can't be happening. I see that you have a very unusual hobby of sending someone's belongings without permission, so I did the same. It's funny, isn't it? Hope you're happy. Worried that he would faint, my idiot sister-in-law grimaced at me. I have suffered from these two more than enough. It's my turn now, so brace yourself. My name is Maya. I'm a 30-year-old secretary. I've been working hard all my life. I had a fateful encounter and married my husband Jason a year ago. He has two sisters who are 2 years older and 6 years younger, so he knew how to treat women. I fell for his loving and caring manner. However, there's one person who's been troubling me since the beginning of our marriage. It's his younger sister, Jasmine. She got a job after graduating from college, but I quit because it just didn't seem right for me. You know what they say, the first 3 months are crucial, right? She quit her job after only 3 months. She's moving from job to job after that. When she came to visit me for the first time, "Whoa, what a tidy house. You're good at cleaning. I'm the youngest, so I'm not good at housework. How amazing. I admire you." I wasn't particularly as good as she thought. Jason suddenly told me that night that she was coming over, so I cleaned up the house in a haste. I didn't feel bad for being praised by her, although I wondered that being the younger had to do with cleaning skills. I was happy to see her, who was bubbly and cheerful. I also liked the idea of having a younger sister-in-law as I was the only child. That day, she came over at 2 p.m. and didn't show a sign of leaving until 6 p.m. I wanted to get ready for dinner, so I mentioned, "Well, I'm gonna start cooking dinner." I hoped she would get a hint and leave, but I got an unexpected reaction from her. "Yay, can I watch it? I love watching people cook." Seeing the twinkles in her eyes, it was hard for me to say no. "Sure." I forced a smile. She wasn't interested in helping me, but just watched the whole time. I guess that she planned to eat with us at that point and kept cooking. I've been living alone, and it's lonely to eat by myself. When I lived at home, I had my parents and siblings. It tasted better to eat with someone else. Jason overheard her comment. "Well then, come for dinner with us once in a while from now on. Your place is close to here. We were feeling lonely with just the two of us. Isn't that right, babe?" That's right. I wasn't really keen on it. Jasmine wasn't a bad girl, but we were still newlyweds and we both worked. I valued our private time having a meal together. I enjoyed eating what I prepared and talking about the day's events with each other. It seemed I was the only one who thought so. I was a little disappointed, but there was another reason why I could not refuse. My in-laws lived about an hour's drive. When we got married, my mother-in-law asked me, "My oldest is very independent and reliable, but the younger two grew up more carefree. Please take good care of Jason." I was so taken by her concerned tone of voice that I was obliged. I had not realized that my in-laws were pretty strange people at that point. I tried to think that having Jasmine over for dinner once in a while wasn't such a big deal. Contrary to my thought, she started to show her thick skin the next day. When I came home exhausted from working overtime, I was absolutely stunned by what I saw. "Oh, Maya, you're home at last. I'm starving. I can't wait to eat." Jason and Jasmine were lounging on the sofa. There were some leftover snacks on the table, and even some crumbs were littered on the floor. I wasn't OCD, but I was not happy to find that she came over without my permission and made a mess. On top of it, she asked me to hurry up and make her dinner as soon as I got home. I tugged on Jason's arm, who was laughing while watching TV. "Jason, honey, come here for a minute." "What the hell? It's just getting better," my idiot husband complained. "What's going on here? Why is she here again? Why is she making herself at home? Why?" He cut me off from asking one question after another. "Babe, wait, calm down. Why are you so upset? You said it was okay yesterday. She was lonely by herself, so she just came here to eat. Why does she need to come 2 days in a row? You say once in a while. Why are you making such a mess?" Jasmine heard what we were talking about. She apologetically said, "If it's bothering you, I'll go home. I'm sorry for making such a mess. I should have known better. I'll go home and have dinner alone. I felt sad because I had a lot of fun yesterday. Your food was better than Mom's, so She looked morose, and I impulsively said, "It's not that I'm bothered, but I didn't know you were coming today. Next time, please call me and let me know." Her face lit up immediately. "Okay, I'll let you know next time. I love you, Maya." She jumped up and hugged me tightly. She was petite and pretty, even seen from a woman's eyes. From a man's point of view, she would be the type of person he would want to protect. She also had a baby face and didn't look like she was 24. I wondered if this was the kind of girl who was good at being pampered. Thinking to myself, I began to prepare the meal. "What are you going to make today?" "Bolognese, I think. Do you like it?" She was thrilled. "Yay! I'll have a lot of sauce, please." While I was astounded by her childlike gaiety, I felt that a lively dining table was not so bad once in a while. She stopped coming over every day, but came about twice a week after that. "I'm in a good mood for rice and beans today." She remembered to call me, but she sometimes gave me a bold request. After about a month, Jason declared something outrageous. "Sorry, hon, can you say that again?" Contrary to my distress, he looked calm. "Jasmine quit her job again. She got evicted from the house for not paying the rent." He was laughing. "So, what's all this?" "Her stuff." I asked him what those boxes were, and they turned out to be Jasmine's belongings. He decided to let her stay at our house for a while without asking me. Meanwhile, she was looking at me with pleading eyes. It really pissed me off, so I took out my phone and called someone right away. Hello? Is this Kathy? I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm wondering if you've already heard about Jasmine quitting her job again and moving to our house? I looked at the two in front of me as I made a call. They looked back at me disapprovingly. This call should have settled everything. My in-laws should have come to pick her up, and I should have gone back to my peaceful life. I was triumphant and even thought I should have done this much sooner, but my mother-in-law had a surprising reaction.
Has she done it again? Sam and I have always told her to be more patient. Is that how young people are nowadays? I'm sorry, Maya, but could you take her in for a while? You know, Sam and I are getting old for this.
I didn't understand what she meant. No, I can't do that. Why would I take her in when she has your house to go back to? Please come and pick her up. I might have said it a little too sternly, but I had no regrets. I always thought that my in-laws were too lenient with their children. She was 24 and a grown woman. They were too indulgent. Kathy was reluctant and passed the phone to Sam. Hi, Maya. I beg you to let her stay there. You are an only child, so maybe you don't understand. Siblings are supposed to help each other. Now is the time, isn't it? He tried to admonish me in a gentle tone, but what he said didn't make sense. While I struggled to argue, Jason and Jasmine smirked at me. I was even more infuriated, but the last straw was Sam's next remark. Jasmine is quite childish, sweet and adorable, you know. Think of it as an exercise in parenting. By the way, I'm disappointed that I haven't heard the good news from you yet. I realized that it was pointless to speak to my in-laws and hang up the phone. From the frustrated look on my face, Jasmine must have felt confident that her parents were on her side.
Thank you for your help, Maya.
I was annoyed that she was easily getting her way. But I have a condition. I can only let you stay for 2 weeks. You can't stay longer than that. We don't have money to support an extra person. If you haven't found a job and a new place by then, you're going back to your parents' house. Understood? Jason will be your guarantor for the apartment, of course. She gave me a look of reproach, but I had made a great compromise in my own way. I wondered if she wanted us to support her. Unbelievable. And honey, why do you always decide things on your own? If you keep doing that, I have my own plans. In a situation like this, Jason usually apologized to me right away, but that day was different. He must have wanted to show his dignity as an older brother to his sister. You are heartless. She's in trouble. I wasn't pleased to hear him call me that. To him, she was his sister, but to me, she was unrelated. Besides, if I continued to exploit her, it would not do her any good. When the 2 weeks were approaching, she hadn't mentioned anything about finding a job or a new apartment. There were a lot of jobs out there if she looked for them.
I'm looking, but it's not easy.
She only made excuses. Things had remained awkward with Jason, and the mood at home was horrible. It seemed he was over-attached to Jasmine, and there were many days when they ate out together and came home late. When the promised 2 weeks were up, they pissed me off even more. I didn't feel well and took a leave from work that day. My friend had told me a terrible truth the day before. As I sat alone in my quiet room in the days, I thought back on everything that had happened. What was my married life about? I even wished it had never happened. Jason and Jasmine came home together in the evening and showed no care for me. Babe, I need to talk to you. I thought Jasmine had finally found a job, but he announced another insanity. The reason you don't want her to stay here is mainly due to the living expenses, right? We thought about it, and why not have Jamie live here too? She makes a good salary, so it would make our life easier. He was so proud of the idea, and I felt nothing but sorry for him. I was sure he was crazy, and there was one more like him.
My sister's never been angry with us no matter what we do. I think she'll agree with our idea. She travels a lot, so she's not home much. I think it's a really good idea.
Jamie was their older sister and successful career woman. She had no desire to get married and was still single. According to Jason and Jasmine, they hadn't talked to her about moving in with us. They were absolutely self-serving. So, we went to her apartment the other day and packed up her stuff. They should have arrived today. Jason looked around the room.
They're not here. I sent them back.
They gave me puzzled looks. A few days ago, I contacted Jamie to see if she could help me since my in-laws were unreliable. She was on a business trip but made time to talk to me.
Hey Maya, I was just about to call you too.
I was truly surprised to hear what she had told me.
I got a call from the manager of my apartment.
He said Jason and Jasmine had come to pack my things for the move on my behalf. He is an old man and a little unreliable, so he let him in.
What are they up to?
She, of course, complained to the manager about it. Jason apparently showed him his driver's license and talked him into letting him in. Still, it was absolutely outrageous, and I felt nothing but sympathy for Jamie. Jason and Jasmine act like criminals out of desperation. I explained to her about my situation and what her parents said.
I've put up with it because they are my family. But I've reached my limit. I have an idea.
The delivery came in the morning at good timing. There were a few boxes, and in addition, it was cash on delivery. She's not home right now, and I don't have cash on me. I'll have her call you later. I declined to receive them and then contacted Jamie immediately. She said she would go to the branch on her way home from the business trip. Since Jason was the one who shipped the boxes, she would drag him out with her. Jamie was pretty upset, you know. I thought she didn't get angry with you guys. By the way, I'm moving out of this house. If you want to live with your little sister so badly, go ahead and live together. It's been 2 weeks. Remember what I told you? If things don't change, I have other plans. I'm divorcing a selfish person like you. Then Jasmine spoke up.
Jason, let's do as she says. You have me, we both lived here, and I'll get a job. Well, you might have to look after me for a while, though.
That would be impossible, Jasmine. I simply stated the truth, and she pouted at me. I received a call from my friend for the first time in a while last night. She said a man in a suit recently appeared at a kid's playground near her office. That man usually sat on the swing alone while everyone else hastily walked by in their morning commute. People at her office were creeped out by him. What surprised her even more was that upon closer inspection, she recognized that the man was Jason.
You quit your job, right, Jason? I heard that you've been swinging in the park every day.
Are you planning to join the Cirque du Soleil? Yeah, something like that. I didn't feel any affection for him, who laughed off the situation that wasn't even remotely funny. He had resigned from his job the month before finding my back. So, if you can't pay the rent, please get out of here immediately. Oh, and as a final act of kindness from me, your stuff is... I opened the door to our bedroom. Jason seemed to notice something strange.
Hey, where's my stuff?
His face turned pale. You seem to have a very unusual hobby of packing up other people's stuff without their permission, so I did the same to you. It's funny, isn't it? I hope you're happy. As he fell to his knees, Jasmine rushed to his side with a worried look and glared at me sharply. Were you guys planning to leave off Jamie and me? You idiots! You told me that you had been working at your company for 2 years. Well, Jamie said you were actually jobless for a long time. I bet the reason you quit was just that you got tired of working. You, brother and sister, are just like each other. I must have hit the nail on the head, and he looked down, avoiding eye contact. At that moment, the doorbell rang. I had asked someone to come over. I invited the person into the apartment. How much trouble do you two have to cause Maya? You guys are beyond redemption. Jamie stood with her arms on her hip, her legs apart, and glared at the two siblings. They were taken aback by her fury that they had never seen before and were frightened by her. Criticism is proof of care, you know. Do you know what I don't get angry with you guys? I've stopped expecting anything from you morons. But not this time. You troubled Maya. You better brace yourselves. She took them back to their parents' house by force. 1 month later, Jason and I had filed for a divorce, and I was having a coffee with someone. So, Jamie, what happened to those two after that?
Waking up at 4 every morning to do physical labor.
She laughed and explained more. After moving back to their parents' house, Jason complained to his parents as expected.
Take it easy on your brother, Jamie. You're being too harsh. I'm sure he can find a job again. You're his older sister, so you should help him until then.
Her mother was still talking nonsense. Jamie shrugged her off and mentioned some magic words. Then she abruptly changed her attitude.
Jason, Jasmine, listen to your big sister.
Her mother scolded them in a panic. She couldn't stop giggling, so I asked, What? What did you say?
I just told her I was going to stop spending money. You know, my parents had been nagging me to give them money ever since I started working.
They even showed up at my office once.
Thanks to them, I've been living in a dingy apartment.
I could see that they wouldn't have hesitated to do such a thing. In the end, Jason and Jasmine were sent to a relative who was a farmer in the countryside. Now they get up at 4 a.m. every morning to help with the farming. There is no entertainment or anything around, and they've already tried to escape several times. Of course, they've been caught and brought back each time.
When my uncle was told about the trouble they caused, he was very motivated to correct their rotten behavior. Well, I don't think people change that easily.
By the way, you're leaving for Hong Kong next week, right? She's been transferred to the Far East and won't be returning the States for a while. She's determined not to send any money to her parents from now on. When she told them about it, they called her heartless and selfish. I thought they were despicable for taking a lot of money from her for a long time. After losing her financial help, they will probably have to live on the shoestring from now on.
I had given up on life, but this was a good opportunity to break it off. Thank you, Maya, and I'm really sorry about my stupid brother. I hope you meet a truly nice guy someday and be happy.
She laughed with a big smile on her face. Since then, I have moved and welcomed a new family member. She is a Chihuahua, and I named her Coco. She is very independent like a cat and has a snobby attitude, but that's what makes her so cute. Coco, let's go for a walk. The morning air always feels good. While on the walk I meet people, and I'm thankful for the new encounters. A lot has happened, but I'm going to forget the past and enjoy my new life.
Husband wants a divorce because he's marrying his girlfriend and asks me to take care of his parents who bully me.
I'm going to marry the woman I'm having an affair with, so divorce me.
My husband says so, openly. And then he even said this to me.
I need you to take care of my parents for my new married life.
Huh? I'm counting on you from now on. I can't be with these insane people who don't even blame their own son for having an affair, but instead try to depend on me. So I told them something. My in-laws turned blue and got down on their knees to me as hard as they could. I am so sorry. My name is Mel. I am a 40-year-old part-time housewife. My husband and I have been married for about 16 years. We met through work. We are colleagues in the same company. We worked together on the same projects and went out for drinks. My husband was 2 years older than me and seemed to be a much more mature man to me at that time. He was funny and cool, and I fell in love with him at once. After a few dates, we started dating. After about a year of dating, he proposed to me, and we got married. I was very happy that I was going to marry the man I loved. I was only 24 years old at the time, but I think I really loved him because I still decided to marry him. After that, my husband and I worked together and had a happy married life. 3 years into our marriage, our son, Zach, was born. He was so cute. I thought he was an angel when he was just born. We were building a good family and were happy. I think it was a good thing that I quit my job after the birth because I was able to devote myself to raising our son and spend a lot of time with him. And I had a good relationship with my in-laws. When I visited my in-laws, they talked to me kindly with smiles on their faces and made me feel comfortable. I thought that we had a really happy married life. My in-laws love their grandson, Zach, very much, so they often came in our house or would invite us to theirs. Then my husband made this suggestion.
Why don't we move in with my parents? Then they could see Zach every day and we could live in a big house without paying rent.
Indeed, I thought his proposal was a good one. It was because of the good relationship between my in-laws and me at that time. My son is going to grow up and it would be better for him to live in a bigger house where he can live freely. So I agreed to live with them. However, I came to realize that my decision was wrong at that time. At first, I thought that living together was going very well. My parents-in-law seemed very happy to be able to live with their grandchild, and my husband seemed relaxed to be back at home. I did my best to do housework as a housewife, and my parents-in-law and my husband never complained to me. My son grew up to be a good boy, and we all watched him grow up. However, there was one thing that bothered me a little. My parents-in-law spoiled my son too much, buying him everything and giving him allowance without my permission. I saw this and thought it was not good for his upbringing, so one day I said to my in-laws, "Could you please stop buying Zach so many things?" When I said this, my in-laws' eyes widened and they became angry.
Are you going to deprive us of the joy of spending time with our Zach? Do you think you are the only one raising him?
My in-laws yelled at me like that, but as a mother, I wanted to educate him properly. That's why I didn't back down. That's not what I'm saying. Of course, feel free to play with Zach. But please don't buy him things without asking me first.
Even if you say that, if Zach wants something, we want to buy it for him.
That's right. What if we don't buy it and we make him sad and he hates us? Are you going to take responsibility?
It seems that my parents-in-law buy things for their grandchild to make him like them. But how are they going to take responsibility if my son becomes selfish because of it? I will explain to him that his grandparents are very kind and love him. So please, stop buying him too many things. Even though I had said all this, my in-laws did not seem to be convinced. Then they started talking to my husband when he came home from work as if it was my fault.
Mel doesn't want us to play with Zach. She wants him all by herself. She wants to be the only one who gets to love him.
I was surprised to hear my in-laws say something completely different, and my husband took them at their word.
Hey, what's the meaning of this? Are you being mean to my mom and dad?
Oh, wait a minute. I didn't do anything like that. I explained it to my husband. I told him that I just wanted them to stop buying too many things for Zach's sake. But he only believed what my in-laws said, not what I said.
That's a load of crap. Don't lie to me like that.
I'm not lying.
So you think my parents are lying?
My husband's eyes widened and he got angry like that. In the end, no matter how much I tried to explain, he believed what my in-laws said.
I didn't think you were such a terrible woman.
Since then, my parents-in-law have been cold to me.
The food you cook tastes bad. You serve fish too often.
Don't treat us like we're old, idiot.
Don't embarrass my mother and father. You're such a useless wife.
That's what they say to me every day. How can they keep abusing me like that? I think it's mentally exhausting to keep on being picking on, and so I even considered divorce. But my son was still small, about 5 years old at the time, and I had been a housewife since he was born and had not worked for a long time, so I was worried about whether I would be able to find a new job. Besides, I was not sure if I would be able to leave with my son. Under the current circumstances, my in-laws can take care of him and my husband has a stable salary, so they might decide that it would be better for them to take him instead of me. I did not want to give up my son just because things were not going well with my in-laws, so I just had to endure without divorce. My in-laws and my husband began to say worse and worse things to me because I didn't resist. They abused me so much that I wondered if they were really the same people I'd known before, and I stopped thinking of them as human beings. It makes me feel a little better. I lived a hard life day by day in this way. No matter how badly my husband and in-laws treated me, I thought it would be better if I could be there to watch my son grow up. My son grew up fast and entered elementary school. I was worried that he might become selfish because my in-laws had given him too many things, but he is a good boy at home, and it seems to be the same at school. I was very happy when the homeroom teacher told me during the parent-teacher conference that my son is a very kind and considerate boy. And my son was studying hard and his grades were good. But for some reason, the people who were aware of this were making it as if it was their own achievement.
I guess it's because we did a good job raising him.
That's right. We praise him and we buy him whatever he wants. That's important.
It doesn't make sense that if you buy him what he wants, his grades will improve. But my in-laws seem to want to involve themselves in everything. I just try to listen to them, praise my son's hard work. I never tried to bribe him with things like my in-laws did, but he still adored me. He always talked to me and told me about things that happened at school. I guess my in-laws did not like that. When my son reached middle school, the amount of things they bought for him increased. They used to buy him sweets and toys, but this time, they bought him the latest gaming consoles and games. No matter how much I tried to stop them, they wouldn't let me. So I had to teach my son not to play too much and to be punctual and keep his promises. But even then, my in-laws still got themselves involved in a troublesome manner.
We feel sorry for him if he still wants to play. We want Zach to have fun, so we bought it for him.
Then I would report it to my husband and he would yell at me. I was completely disgusted. Anyway, all I wanted was for my son to grow up to be a good man. That was all I could think about as I went about my daily life. Time passed by and my son turned 13 years old. He's now a high school student and he's going through puberty, which may be very difficult for me as a parent. While I was thinking about this, an unexpected problem occurred. It was my husband's day off. My husband suddenly called me into the bedroom, saying he wanted to talk to me. What on earth did he mean by inviting me here? I knew that he had no intention to do that, because he and I had completely cooled off, and I myself didn't want to do such a thing with him anymore. While I was thinking about this, my husband suddenly made a surprising statement.
I'm going to marry the person with whom I'm having an affair.
What? I was surprised at the unexpected words from my husband.
Well, it's understandable to be surprised. I've been trying to keep you in the dark, but I thought it was time to tell you.
My husband told me so openly. Why would he want to tell the world that he's having an affair? Well, I don't know what a stupid person thinks. And finally, he says something like this.
I'm counting on you to take care of my parents for my new married life.
Huh? Wait a minute. You're getting a divorce, right? Then I'll have to leave with Zach, won't I? I said that and he said something crazy.
I'm the one who's leaving.
What? What do you mean?
So I'm going to leave here and start a new married life with my new wife. And I'm worried about my parents, so I'm leaving you in charge of the house. You'll have a house to live in with Zach, so it's a win-win.
I was speechless. It's not a win-win at all. I was at a loss for words at that crazy comment.
Well then, I'll tell them about it right away,
my husband said, and suddenly started to go to the living room. I hurried after him. He gave the same explanation to my parents-in-law as he had given to me. I thought they would be angry at my husband for this, but my in-laws were also crazy people.
Yes, I'll miss you, but, well, it can't be helped.
I know. The newlyweds should spend their honeymoon alone, so you'll take care of everything else, huh? I'll be counting on you.
My in-laws don't blame their own son for having an affair and try to depend on me.
If you leave, I'll make sure you leave Zach behind. If you leave, you'll be the only one.
I can't be with these insane people. I told them something. I'm telling you, since this is my husband's divorce, I can claim alimony and I have a better chance of getting my son.
What? What do you mean?
Because my husband committed adultery. Normally, the adulterer never gets custody, and the mother usually gets that.
Wait a minute. Then you'll take Zach and leave, won't you?
Yes, of course. That's the plan.
I won't let you.
That's it. Let's talk to Zach.
My in-laws and my husband said so and went to call our son. Are they going to tell him everything? My son came into the living room.
What's wrong?
Mom and Dad are getting a divorce.
What?
So you would like to stay here with your grandparents, wouldn't you?
That's an unfair way of explaining and asking questions. I quickly made my point. You better explain to him that you are divorcing me because of your adultery. When I said this, my husband and in-laws were in a panic.
Zach is just a junior high school student.
That's right. What are you trying to do to him by shocking him?
My in-laws and husband were blaming me, but before I could say anything back, my son started talking.
You're the one who caused the shock, aren't you? Why are you all blaming my mother? Well,
I mean, I heard you all arguing earlier. So if you get divorced, which one of you will I follow? Of course, it's Mom.
Zach, why? Don't you want to live with Grandpa and Grandma? You know, you were nice to me, but you were terrible to Mom, weren't you? To be honest, I can't forgive you. I despised you, and I despise Dad for not protecting her. Despise?
My in-laws looked shocked.
Anyway, I have one answer. I'm leaving here with my mom. From now on, I will protect her.
Zach. I was so happy that my son was on my side. Then my in-laws turned pale and got down on their knees to me as hard as they could.
We're sorry. Please don't leave this house. I don't want my grandchild to leave.
My parents-in-law begged me. My husband too.
Please, can't you guys stay here?
He asked me again, saying that it's his plan. My son and I were not going to give in at any cost. Zach and I will no longer have anything to do with you. We will leave this house, and we will leave this house for good. I said this and started to pack up my things. My son joined me in packing his bag with only what he needed for the time being.
Where are you going? I screwed up. If you guys go to your parents' house, Zach will have to change schools. Don't you feel sorry for him?
My husband said things like that and tried to keep us here until the end. But then my son said to him, I'd rather change schools than to stay in this house forever. You should first be sorry for what you have done to Mom. The worst thing you did was to have an affair. Do you realize how much you've done to her? My husband is being told off like that by a child who has just started high school. I tried hard not to laugh at how hilarious it was. My husband was kneeling on the ground with a pale face. My in-laws were so exhausted that they just slumped down on the ground. My son and I left the house, and I drove to my parents' house with him by my side. After that, I hired a lawyer and demanded divorce, alimony, and child support for my husband. Of course, I also demanded alimony from the adulterous partner. My husband thought that if I moved in with my parents, he would not have to pay child support. However, everything did not go as planned, and as a result, he had to pay alimony and child support. Furthermore, the affair partner also said that the story he had told her was different, and so he was eventually dumped. He is currently staying with my in-laws and putting most of his income towards alimony and child support. Incidentally, I told the neighbors about the affair and sent a certified letter to my ex-husband's workplace, so people around my ex-husband know about it, and they look at him coldly and refuse to get involved with him.
Because of you, we can't see Zach anymore.
My ex-in-laws would blame my ex-husband.
It's because of my money that you have been living a good life, right?
It's said that they have been quarreling every day. My ex-husband sent me a message saying that he wanted to get back together with me, but I only read the message and blocked him. I also blocked his incoming calls so that he could not contact me at all. After I went back to my hometown with my son, I started working as an office worker for a friend of my father's company. Now, I am raising my son as a single mother with the support of my parents. My son has remained a kind-hearted child despite all that has happened, and he seems to be adjusting well to his new school. I will continue to work as hard as I can and watch my son grow up.
My husband threw divorce papers at me, but he came begging for forgiveness after I told my dad.
I'm going home for a while. Then don't come back. Here, the divorce papers. I've already signed them. Take them and get the hell out of here. My husband threw them at me. I picked up the scattered papers up and visiting an attorney's office. My husband will regret this. I'm Zoe, 28 years old. My husband Noah is 2 years older than me, and we were being married for a year. I've been working as a freelance graphic designer from home since before my marriage. Noah works as a salesman. A friend of mine introduced us when I was mopping about my fresh breakup 2 years ago. At the time, I had no intention to start a new relationship, but Noah insisted on hanging out as friends. He supposedly fell in love with me when my friend showed him my pictures. After going out with him on several occasions, I came to know of his affectionate side and eventually fell in love with him. I confessed my feelings to him, and we became an official couple. Then he proposed to me 6 months later, and we got married. Honey, you're very lucky to be chosen by me. I'm the top salesman at work, and many girls are chasing after me. Noah repeatedly boasted after we got married. He was indeed a good-looking elite businessman, but his saying it out loud was questionable. At the time, I took his arrogance as a charm. I was blinded by love, you know. I love my confident, kind, and manly husband. We don't have kids, but I was fulfilled in my marriage. 1 year after we got married, I started facing an obstacle.
Listen, Zoe, when will you make me happy with a grandchild?
It was my mother-in-law, Emma. She started to ask me to get pregnant as soon as possible every time I saw her. Noah and I visited his parents a few times a month since they lived within a 15-minute drive. I had to hear the same question frequently. We are still young, so we want to spend a little more time together. She blatantly gave a loud groan of dismay.
You say young, but you're turning 30 soon. I gave you a year to see how things go and didn't say anything, so that's enough, isn't it? It's about time you had a baby before it gets too hard on you. When I got married, I had Noah right away. Besides, you're doing nothing at home, aren't you?
She couldn't get used to the idea of working from home, so she didn't recognize my work as work. Anyway, the real reason we didn't want to get pregnant yet was that Noah insisted on being alone for a little longer. What are you saying? I don't work from home. I've told you many times that my salary is the same as Noah's.
I'm suspecting that's a lie that he's covering for you. Aren't you just hanging out at home?
That's so not true. Noah, say something. Oh, yeah. At times like that, he didn't say anything to help me. He once explained the reason. Mom doesn't really listen to me when I try to explain things to her. It's a waste of time. Just let whatever she says go in 1 ear and out the other. Still, I was in trouble, so he could have at least defended me a little. Instead, he just laid on the sofa, fiddling with his phone, and made ransom responses.
Anyway, whatever you say, you're not busy. You'd better fulfill your role as a wife. If you don't get pregnant by the end of this year, I'll ask you to leave Noah.
Excuse me?
No excuse. Noah is my only child. I need a daughter-in-law who will leave me a legitimate heir.
Noah didn't even look up from this phone, while I was being unreasonably scolded by his mother. I was so angry that I questioned him about it once we were back home. Hon, why didn't you intervene earlier? You need to convince your mom that it's you who won't delay having kids. I'm sorry, but she's too old-fashioned. She stuck with the idea of having kids as soon as married. I know, but you could at least try and explain to her. She's the kind of person who never changes mind. It's just wasting my energy. I've been telling you from the beginning, just give her random appropriate answers. But she said she would ask me to leave you if I don't get pregnant by the end of the year. Don't worry, she's just trying to scare you. Look, it's not because she told me to, but I think it's about time for us to start a family. Why don't you want a baby? I don't mind. I just want to enjoy the two of us for now. If we have a baby, you'll be busy that you won't have much time for me. He put me into his arms as he spoke. I thought he was adorable and held him back tightly. He knew the right things to say at home, but when we went to his parents' house, he still didn't protect me from his mother. She even started calling me every day asking if I was pregnant. I was getting sick and tired of her. I had never mentioned to her that it was Noah's idea to delay the pregnancy. I was concerned about causing a family feud, but I ran out of my patience and finally told her about it. However, she denied it once.
Is that what you are making him say? There's no way he would say that.
Of course not. It's exactly what he tells me. I want to have a baby soon too.
Oh, Noah, is that true?
Not exactly. I do want to stay with the two of us, and she agrees with me too. I was stunned. I did agree with him, but if he told her in that context, it sounded like I just lied about wanting a baby soon. Emma glared at me as I expected.
You see, you are agreeing with him. Have a baby as soon as possible. Don't keep me waiting forever.
It ended up with me being at fault again. When we got home, I asked him why he had to say it like that to his mother. He said he would clarify with her next time, which he never did. I wondered why I had to go through such headaches and felt gloomy around that time. Then I found out why Noah didn't want a baby one day. It was a weekend, and he was out. Once a month, he made plans to go out with his friends. At first, I was just lounging around at home. We were supposed to go and see Emma in the evening, so I was feeling down thinking about what she would say to me. I decided to go out to distract myself. I felt a little better after shopping for the first time in a while and was about to take a coffee break. At first, I wasn't sure what my eyes were seeing. There was a woman, her baby, and Noah in the terrace section of the cafe. I quickly hid behind the wall to avoid being seen by him. He and the woman seemed to be having a pleasant conversation, and then he suddenly picked up the baby and cradled it. My mind went blank and just kept watching the scene in front of me without comprehension. He said he was going out with a friend, and I wondered if she was the friend. I thought I'd be introduced to all of his friends since we got married, but I had never met her. Then I saw him kissing the baby on the cheek. After all the talk about denying the pregnancy, my heart ached to see him looking lovingly at someone else's baby. I began to think that he didn't really love me, and that's why he didn't want to have a baby with me. My sights became blurred with tears. I wondered if he was cheating on me. The thought made my heart ache even more. I took a picture of the three having a pleasant time together. Just as I was about to leave the place, he handed the woman an envelope and stood up. I rushed back home so as not to run into him. He came back 15 minutes after me. As soon as he did, I questioned him. "Hey, hon, you went out with your friend, right?" "Yep. What's up?" "Is she your friend too?" I showed him the picture I had taken earlier. His face lost color all of a sudden. "What? Why do you have this picture?" "I just happened to find you guys when I was shopping." "What's this all about? Explain it to me. Have you been cheating on me?" "No way! I have not." "Then who is this?" "Also, what the hell was the envelope you handed her at the end?" As I continued to question him, he slowly answered with a look of dismay on his face. "Well, I was going to tell you sooner or later. You know, I'm pretty popular, right? So, I had a few flings before I met you, and one of them got pregnant." "Huh?" I was flabbergasted by his confession. "I found out after we got married. She was already 28 weeks pregnant by the time she told me, and she was determined to have the baby. It was my fault for ignoring her, even though she tried to get in touch with me earlier. She didn't ask for a marriage, but wanted me to recognize the baby. I felt bad for the child to be fatherless, so I acknowledged it. I asked her for a once-a-month visitation right in return. She was also having a hard time financially, so I'm paying her child support. My head spun upon hearing his revelation, and my knees gave out. Honey, are you okay? He quickly rushed to my side, but I refused his touch. Wait a minute, it's a little strange. She was 28 weeks pregnant when we got married. Does that mean you were with her when we were dating? I'm telling you, it's not like that. When we became official, I completely cut ties with her. But we were already seeing each other, right? Yes, but we weren't in a relationship yet. I couldn't believe it. Even though we weren't officially a couple, he was obvious with his intention to become one. Yet he was having a fling on the side? I didn't know what was going to happen to us, so... Besides, I never thought she would get pregnant. But you were still acting in a way that got her pregnant. Well, yeah, he mumbled. I had never expected him to be so irresponsible. I was furious that he had never mentioned it, even after a year of marriage. So, since you already have a baby, is that why you don't want to have one with me yet? He flinched once, and then made an awkward smile. No, I want a baby with you at some point, but as I said before, I'm paying child support every month. If we were to have a baby, you might need to take a break from work. If that happens, it's going to be very tight financially. I thought about starting a family with you after I get a raise. I was already beyond angry and was simply dumbfounded. Well then, make sure you tell your mother about this. No way! Yes, I'm the one who's always been blamed by her, and you turned a blind eye. You even made it sound like I didn't want a baby. No, I can't tell my parents that I have a child with another woman. What the hell? That's so selfish. I had to unknowingly go along with your selfish ego every time and was made to feel bad about it. Watch your tongue. Are you trying to say you don't like being with my family? I didn't say that. I'm saying that I was unreasonably bland because of you. I don't dislike Emma. What's with your attitude? I've apologized. Why are you still complaining? Don't you forget that you're lucky to be married to an excellent man like me. You're overreacting just because I have a child. Overreacting? That's enough. It's a waste of time talking to you. I want to think about the future, so I'm going back to my parents' house for a while. What the hell? Why would you do that? There's no need for you to think about anything. You're my wife. You're supposed to accept all of me. I was amazed by his ideals. How could I so easily accept such a serious matter just because I was his wife? I was also furious that he had been hiding the illegitimate child from his parents. I couldn't forgive him for making me look back in front of Mama, even thought it was his fault. Just because I'm your wife doesn't mean I can accept everything. Anyway, I'm leaving, and while I'm gone, you also need to think about it. As I was about to get up, he got up first and went into the bedroom. He came back with something and threw it at me. Then don't come back here. If you can't accept me for who I am, you're not my wife. Here, the divorce papers. I've already signed them. Take them and get the hell out of here. He threw them at me. What do you mean you've already signed? I could have understood if he asked for a divorce, but the fact that he had already signed meant that he had prepared them in advance. I couldn't believe it. He smiled sarcastically and replied, You never know what's going to happen in life, so you have to be prepared for everything. Well, I like your appearance, but if you can't accept me, I don't need you anymore. Fortunately, there are many women who threw themselves at me. I just have to choose a good one. In other words, There are plenty of women who can fill the role of my wife. His arrogance pissed me off. I just wanted to calmly think about the future, including the illegitimate child. But not only did he allow me to do so, but told me that there were others to take my place. I had the right to be furious at him for treating me like that. I clutched the divorce papers tightly and glared at him. I didn't think you were such a scumbag. I will give you a divorce as you wish. I'll get my stuff when you're not here. I doubt we will ever see each other again. Goodbye. I ran out of the house and started to look for a lawyer on my phone. However, I knew that I couldn't contain my anger if I just left at that point. As soon as I got to my parents' house, I reported to my father the whole thing. I took the next day off work to pick up my things. I thought I had a happy marriage. I was so disappointed to realize that I had married such a scumbag that tears welled up. I tried to think it was a blessing to disguise that I got to find out before wasting many more years and wipe my tears away. When the packing was finished and the mover came to pick them up, I received a call from Noah. Hello, Zoe? I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. As soon as I picked up the phone, he apologized frantically. I grinned at the distressed tone of his voice. No way. I can't forgive you. You initiated the divorce anyway. I just gave you what you wanted. No. That was just a joke. I mean, I've realized that what I've done and I'm sorry. You haven't done anything with the divorce papers yet, have you? Of course I have. I've already consulted a lawyer. Let's just forget the divorce and start over. I can't live without you after all. I wanted to laugh at the sound of his despair. I was convinced that he was pushed to the edge of cliff because of my father. That was expected. My father was the CEO of a major client of his company. Noah, in the heat of the moment, must have forgotten all about it when he threw the divorce papers at me. I was thrilled to know that he was being punished. Have you lost the contract of a major client? That's a shame. I can't believe the elite salesman blundered like this. Let's see how he handles it. Right, that's what I'm going to start over with you. There are plenty of women to replace me, aren't there? Good luck finding one. I hung up the phone and enjoyed the feeling of triumph. Later, my father told me that Noah was demoted for losing the contract. I guess he was lucky he wasn't let go. Because of the incident, the company's business had been going downhill, and his co-workers apparently gave him reproachable eyes. He told his parents about the illegitimate child. They were happy at first and tried to have him married to the mother of the child. However, once they found out the woman was very poor, they changed their mind. Noah asked me again to start over, but of course I refused. Who will willingly go back to that mother-in-law and ex-husband? Meanwhile, our divorce was finalized. Now I've been living at and working from my parents' house. I recently landed a contract with a major company, and my work is going quite well. I'm now devoting myself to work while hoping to meet someone wonderful someday.
The accident? It's probably karma, you know, because of the bad stuff you do all the time. I'm going to enjoy the trip with Mom.
Exactly. Traveling takes priority over you guys. My father-in-law and I had an accident on our trip. Turns out, my husband and mother-in-law decided to continue their trip without us. I cried tears of frustration, while my father-in-law sat deep in thought beside me. By that time, he seemed to already have an idea in mind. Shocked by what he suggested, I thought to myself, I want to take this chance to vent all my pent-up frustration. I felt a surge of emotion. He has set the stage for the perfect revenge. My name is Katie Miller, 29 years old.
I married Jacob a year ago, and now we're living with his parents. His parents, Charlotte, a former kindergarten teacher, and Dexter, a businessman, clearly doted on him a lot. You could tell, just by looking at him, how much his parents had spoiled him. When I first went to their house to introduce myself, Dexter greeted me with a smile and said,
I'm so happy that someone as cheerful and wonderful as you is marrying Jacob.
I blushed at his words. Oh, that's very kind of you to say. I'm flattered. Thank you.
My son might be a bit unreliable, but please, bear with him. If anything happens, feel free to talk to me.
Thank you. That means a lot. He was so friendly that I couldn't help smiling, but on the other hand, Charlotte didn't seem to like me much. On my first day living with them, I quickly saw her true colors. When I rang the doorbell of their house, she appeared with a cold expression. Good morning, I greeted her, but she snapped back. So, you actually came. I wish this whole living together thing had fallen through. Charlotte. Don't call me by my first name. I have no intention of being your family, even in-law. What? Don't get the wrong idea, young lady. I only said okay because Jacob brought you here. I don't accept a plain, unremarkable girl like you as my daughter-in-law. But I thought today would be the start of a happy married life. But reality was the exact opposite. From that day on, I was treated like a maid by her. When Jacob and Dexter went to work, Charlotte's harassment would begin. Katie, what was that for breakfast today? What do you mean? That soup. How could you make something so tasteless? Did you even use the right stock? Yes, I made it exactly as you told me to. Then, why did it taste so bland? Must be your poor cooking skills. I'm sorry. Instead of apologizing, why don't you practice cooking? Though I won't taste it since it'll probably be awful. I was criticized every day for my cooking, being told it was inedible. And it didn't stop there. If I hung laundry, I'd hear, there are wrinkles, or wash it again. And when I cleaned, it was, there's still dust, or aren't you paying attention? Even a short break was met with, how dare you rest? You're just a wife. I had agreed to live with Jacob's parents early in our marriage because he wanted to support them. But why did it have to be this hard? After about 6 months of this, I reached my limit and decided to talk to my husband. One night, as we lay in bed, I cautiously broached the topic. Hey, Jacob, is there any way we can stop living with your parents?
Huh? Why bring this up all of a sudden? You agreed to this living arrangement, remember?
Yeah, but when I'm home alone with your mom, she complains about everything.
Complains? My mom?
He laughed it off as if it were a joke, and looked at me questioningly. To convey how I felt, I honestly told him everything. From the taste of breakfast to cleaning and laundry, she complains about everything.
No way. My mom doing something like harassing you?
Really? It's true. Believe me. It's been so hard for me every day.
Enough. My mom used to be a kindergarten teacher. She's known for being kind in our neighborhood. She would never do something like that.
But she really...
I'm disappointed in you. I can't believe you speak so badly of my mom.
He became irritated, as if he was the one wronged. After that, I tried to talk to him a few more times, but he never responded. That's when I realized He would always believe his mother over his wife. Maybe he's what you'd call a mama's boy. It's hard to say for sure, but it sure felt like it. Every time Charlotte harassed me, I'd talk to him about it. But he never took me seriously, just brushing me off. Nothing changed, and my heart grew more and more weary each day. A year into our marriage, Jacob's attitude hasn't changed. In fact, he started joining his mom and putting me down.
Listen, you're practically a maid here. You don't work, so remember, it's because of me that you have a roof over your head. Don't forget that.
A maid? If that's how it is, I'll get a job too.
As if you working would bring in any real money. Just stay quiet and take care of the house.
Why are you being like this? I quit my job and moved in with your parents because you asked me to.
Don't blame me. You working would just be a burden to the company. I told you that for the company's sake.
That's so unfair.
Learn from my mom and become a decent wife.
I was devastated by my own husband's coldness. Charlotte watched me with a smirk. Then one day, something happened. Dexter, who had the day off, seemed in a good mood from the morning. He went out in the morning and came back around noon, looking pleased. Out of the blue, he approached me.
Katie, can I talk to you?
What is it?
How about going on a trip next month?
You mean just you and me? I blurted that out without thinking, and he hurriedly corrected me.
No, the whole family. All 4 of us. You'll have your own room. What do you think?
I get my own room?
Yeah, you've seemed tired lately. So, how about relaxing for 3 days?
Really?
Of course. It might be under the guise of a family trip, so you don't get complaints. But what do you think?
Yes, I love that. I'm so happy. I couldn't believe he was making such an offer. Dexter smiled, looking pleased, as he saw how happy I was. On the day of our trip, a month later, we drove to the destination with Jacob at the wheel. For some reason, Charlotte sat in the front passenger seat, while Dexter and I were in the back. Dexter looked apologetic and said,
"Oh, I feel bad about this."
But I was actually grateful for the arrangement. While my mother-in-law and husband were having fun in the front, Dexter and I had a good chat in the back. Then it happened. Suddenly, we were hit by a tremendous impact, and our bodies lurched forward. It seemed a car had crashed into us from behind because of Jacob's sudden braking. As I grasped the situation, I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I found myself in an unfamiliar bed. I have no idea how many hours had passed. Looking around, I saw Dexter in the bed next to me. In the same room, my husband and his mother were busy with their phones, seemingly having fun. Jacob, Charlotte. Hearing my voice, they rushed over, startled, and called the nurse to get a doctor. Fortunately, since the car behind us had slowed down, Dexter and I in the back seat only suffered mild concussions and bruises. As the doctor left the room, Jacob and Charlotte let out huge sighs of relief. Taking advantage of Dexter still being unconscious, Jacob said,
"Oh, man. It's all because you fainted that this turned into such a mess."
Exactly. Our whole trip is ruined. But it was because you slammed on the brakes.
Were you trying to blame me? I drove a long way for you.
Right. And on top of that, you just had to tag along on this family trip. How dense can a wife be?
That's not fair. It's all because of karma, you know, the bad stuff you do all the time. I'm going to enjoy the trip with Mom.
Exactly. Traveling takes priority over you guys. Laughing, they left the hospital room. and the room fell silent except for my sobbing. Trying not to wake Dexter, I cried in frustration. Just as I was about to drift back to sleep, I heard Dexter calling from the next bed.
Katie.
Dexter, you're awake. I'll call the doctor.
No need. We both just have mild concussions, right?
How did you know? You were asleep when the doctor came.
I was at first, but I woke up during the doctor's visit.
Then why pretend to be asleep?
Because I overheard. Your husband and Charlotte were treating you poorly.
It seemed he had heard everything about how coldly Jacob and Charlotte had treated me. He pretended to be asleep to hear their true colors, thinking they would make excuses if he woke up. He looked serious as he asked,
Has this been going on for a while?
Yes.
I'm so sorry I didn't notice earlier. It took me too long to help you.
No, it's not your fault. They were just good at hiding it from you.
Still, I should have noticed sooner, living under the same roof. I really don't know what to say.
He sat up in bed, looking genuinely apologetic. Then he said,
I know it's not much, but will you help me with a plan I have?
A plan? What is it?
So, here's the thing.
The plan he shared was astonishing. In that moment, I decided to take revenge on Jacob and Charlotte. Dexter's plan was to demolish the house we were living in. It turned out the house was actually in the name of his father, my grandfather-in-law, not Dexter. His father, now living in a condo with his wife, had given Dexter the house when he got married. The house was getting old, and his father had recently told him to either demolish it or renovate it.
I was planning to renovate it, but no more. I'll demolish the house. I can't forgive them for treating the woman who married into our family like that.
But wouldn't that ruin our family relationship?
It's fine. I've finally seen their true colors. Katie, I know it's late, but allow me to repay you for everything.
Dexter. He took out his phone and called his father. The demolition was arranged, and the work would start the next day. The next day, after being discharged from the hospital, Dexter and I went to his father's house. It seemed our belongings had already been moved to a storage facility. I thanked them and sent my things to my parents' house. Meanwhile, Jacob and Charlotte had enjoyed their trip so much so that they extended it. When they returned to the site of their former home, they were shocked and stood dumbfounded. They were arguing in confusion.
What the heck is this? Mom, why is the house gone?
I have no idea. Do you know anything about this?
How would I know? I just got back with you.
Then why? How can our house just disappear like this?
As they bickered, Dexter tapped me on the shoulder. Realizing we were there, Jacob rushed over, flustered, and confronted his father.
Hey, what's going on here? What do you mean? Why is our house gone? It was old and needed to be torn down. Are there any other reasons than that? No, that's not what I meant. Why would you do something like this without asking? That was our home. Our home? Yes, at least Mom and I didn't know anything about this. This is something you did on your own. What have you done?
Dexter remained calm as his son angrily confronted him. He then spoke up quietly. Did it all by myself? No way. I got permission. What? I don't remember Mom or I giving permission. I got Katie's permission. What? That house was originally in my father's name. You guys don't have a say in it. Wait a minute.
regardless of whose name it's in, why demolish it all of a sudden? Isn't it obvious? I got sick of living with you guys. Sick of living with us? Why?
Before he could say anything more, Dexter glared at him and began to shout furiously.
You think I didn't know? I heard everything you said to Katie at the hospital. Dad, you were awake then? It was by accident, but hearing your true colors was enlightening. It gave me the idea for this plan. What do you mean, plan? You set Mom and me up? Set up? I just took the appropriate action. I'm divorcing your mother too. The rest is up to you.
He pulled out divorce papers and headed towards Charlotte. After Dexter left, Jacob turned his anger on me.
Hey, what's this all about? Why didn't you say anything?
This was your father's decision, not mine.
But you knew about it, right? Then you should have stopped him. I mean, you don't have a place to live either.
A place to live? I'm going back to my parents' home.
Wait, are you planning to divorce me? I won't allow it.
I looked at him coldly as he ranted. Enough. I don't need you to allow it. Why do you think this all happened? It's all because of you and your mother. You have no idea how much I've suffered and put up with your nonsense.
Oh, wait. Calm down. Let's just talk.
I have nothing left to say to you. Don't interfere with my life anymore. Thanks to your father, I'm finally free from you. Good luck living with your beloved mom and fall to the bottom of hell for all I care. I walked away without looking back. Finally, I was free from that life. Later, Jacob and I divorced. Initially, he refused, but under Dexter's supervision, he was forced to sign. Charlotte and Jacob ended up living in a business hotel before moving into an apartment. His salary was consumed by rent and living expenses for the two of them, leading to a drastic change in their lifestyle. As for me, I returned to my parents' house and rejoined my previous company. They welcomed me back, and now I'm focused on my work. I still keep in touch with Dexter. I plan to repay his kindness in any way I can.